Welcome back to the Taproom Exclusive. I'm Dean Zarbaugh here at Masthead Brewing Company with Mike Pelechaty. We are now talking about the Single Origin Coffee Stout. This is a year-round beer from you guys. You can get it in cans wherever Masthead's sold. Talk a little bit about the beer, the stout. You guys get the coffee from a single place. That's where the name comes from?
Yeah, so the idea is, we get all of our coffee from Six Shooter Coffee, and they have a shop over in Waterloo, and they do all their roasting on the west bank of the flats.
Okay.
And Pete Brown, who's the founder of Six Shooter, is a really good roaster. His coffee's awesome. We've had a good relationship with him for a number of years now. So we definitely are happy to use his coffee, and I definitely implore you to go buy a bag from him and brew some at home. It's delicious. So the Single Origin actually refers to the origin of the bean.
Okay, my bad.
So it's 100%. It's not a blend of beans. It's 100% Ethiopian Yirgacheffe.
Okay.
And we really like the Ethiopian coffees and some of the other African coffees. They're grown at really high elevation, and they're naturally processed. So you get a ton of the fruity character from the actual berry that used to be on the coffee bean.
Oh, nice.
And to me, that really blends well with a stout, actually, because instead of adding roastiness to something that's already roasty, you're adding a little bit of brightness and some more fruitiness and like a mellow acidity that makes a really drinkable beer. And, it'll get you a little bit of a caffeine buzz.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what made you land on that bean specifically? What did you try other ones before that, or?
Yeah, so we cupped a bunch of coffee, which is kind of how you analyze coffee, and then we sort of did almost like a growler experiment where we infused the beer with various different beans. And so far, we've liked the Ethiopian Yirgacheffe the best. We've messed around with a Sadama in the past and another Ethiopian bean that I can't put my finger on right now. But anyways, that's what we're going to do for now. And if we find a bean that we like more because it's Single Origin Coffee Stout, we may end up substituting it or doing a special release. But we've been really liking the Yirgacheffe lately. Yeah,
no, it's great. I've talked before. I don't drink coffee by itself. I just never developed a taste for it, but I can handle it in a beer. I like it in my beer, and I always like to tell people if you like coffee beer, definitely to try the Single Origin Coffee Stout. When brewing with coffee beans, what are the challenges with that? Because I feel like that it can go wrong in a lot of places.
So I think there's a few different challenges. Is number one, we do our coffee on the cold side.
Okay.
Which I think you'll find most people are doing anymore because it keeps it from getting too bitter.
Okay.
So number one, the beans need to be sanitary. So that's number one challenge, and we're PCRing everything, so keeping our micro really tight with the lab we have operational now.
Oh, nice.
And then the other thing is it's very easy to over-extract.
Okay.
So we're really looking, at that window where the beer is tasting really good between like 18 and 24 hours to hit the sweet spot, can it and keg it off, and make sure we don't over-extract acidity or too much coffee character. Or it kind of makes the beer thin out a little bit and tastes a little weird. So that's definitely been the biggest
You still want it to
challenge.
Have the beer flavor with the coffee.
Right.
You don't want it to just just taste like coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely keeping it in balance.
Yeah, and as far as stouts go, is that a style that you like to brew, and is that something you experimented a lot with as a home brewer?
Yeah, so probably the first time I had a coffee beer was, I think in 2010. I was in Clearwater, Florida on spring break, and we ended up going to Dunedin Brewing Company down there.
Okay.
And they have a beer, I believe, called Bière du Café. It's a brown ale. It's a coffee brown ale.
Ooh, nice.
It's freaking delicious. So that got me into coffee beer kind of back then. So I'd played around with brewing a couple different coffee stouts on a homebrew scale. I really like them. My friends really like them. So that was a huge hit. And then I actually brewed a oatmeal stout called My Ass's Dragon at Black Box.
That's a great name.
Yeah. And so that was a ton of fun, and that was a coffee beer we did there.
Yeah.
And then sort of through those experiences, we ended up coming up with Single Origin Coffee Stout when we opened Masthead.
That's awesome, and that's been an original recipe basically, pretty much from you right from the bat.
Yeah.
And that there's a big stout market these days, and that's I like stouts, but I really have to be in the mood for them personally.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a dichotomy of drinkers, and I think there's people who are stout drinkers, and they'll maybe play around drinking some IPAs here and there, but they're primarily stout drinkers. I think there's people who are more IPA or lighter beer drinkers,
absolutely,
who might play around with the stouts. But so definitely this beer is for the stout drinker. I mean, some of my friends who are very much stout drinkers really like it, and I do too. I mean, I drink all beer, so
yeah, beer's good.
That's an easy one. But
it's got it's got the roasty flavors, but without going too far into the coffee. It's got the balance between the malt and the coffee.
Yeah, I think it's another beer that's reasonably sessionable because it's not a massive imperial stout,
right?
And some people are looking for that in it, so that's maybe probably the one knock it gets, but. That also leaves us room, to do the coffee underverses and some of the other beers that we do.
But you buy a 4-pack of like a Coffee Origin Stout, you can maybe have half or 3/4 of it, and not feel like you just had 7,000 ABVs. Or
you're not completely burnt, and you're also not like completely ripped either.
Right,
because
exactly.
There's a fair amount of coffee,
Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing is you don't want to get.
You don't want to be able to sleep at night.
Right, exactly. That's the other problem is, I don't know what it is about. I love malt. I love that profile in a beer. It's just with stouts. It's really hit or miss for me. But the Single Origin is one I can sit down and actually.
Yeah, and in a way, because it's a light roasted Ethiopian coffee, it actually softens some of that roastiness and softens some of the bitterness as opposed to exacerbating it.
Yeah, I've recommended a ton of people to try it, even if they told me specifically they don't like coffee. Like, try this because it's not what you think. It's kind of like the jalapeno. It's not what you've already preconceived in your head.
Yeah,
give it a chance.
Yeah, I think a lot of people grew up and their first try of coffee was like their parents' like super strong, super bitter Folgers, oxidized beans.
That's
like
exactly why I don't. That's why I don't drink coffee.
When you have when I've given some people even just like some of this coffee brewed up, they're like, oh wow, that's totally different than anything I've had.
Yeah, that's something I still need to get into is the more coffee side of things. There's a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? The craft beer industry and the craft coffee industry. There's a lot of overlap in.
Oh, absolutely. I think both
local and
and I think even just like the kinds of people you meet that are roasting the coffee are very similar to a lot of the brewers, and
it's fun to nerd out.
We love our craft and they're very passionate about flavor and quality.
As fun as it is for us to nerd out about beer, it's fun for people to nerd out about the coffee too. And I was at a brewery down in Columbus, Olentangy River Brewing Company, and they have a coffee place inside the brewery, and so they open at like 7 a.m. and you get a cup of coffee. It's like a full coffee house within the brewery.
Oh, that's awesome! And
so it's a nice. I like seeing the way coffee houses and breweries are working together and teaming up because it's now showing, hey, 6 Shooter is a local place. You're giving your money to a local place. You're giving your money to everything just staying in the community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun getting to work with some of the other businesses in town and getting to meet these different people and making some friendships through that.
Yeah, that's the best part about this industry is the people. It's really hard to find bad people in this industry, but there are going to be a few out there. But generally everybody wants to help out each other, and that's not something you see in a lot of industries. Is people willing to reach out and say, "Hey, let me help you out."
Yeah, and I think it's largely because the industry is driven by passion and not by profit for the most part. I mean, and that means something.
Yeah, that's why I do this. Is I'm not getting paid to do this. This is just for me to talk about beer with people who like to talk about beer, and that's what I get out of it. That's what's fun for me. If you wanted to have some food with the Single Origin, would you go pizza on that? How would you, or would you go maybe a dessert?
So I think it pairs well with a couple different pizzas for sure, but I honestly think some of our small plates pair maybe the best. We have these goat cheese stuffed dates, and I think some of the sweetness and the dark fruits from the dates really resonate with the coffee. Some of the fruity characters you get from the coffee and also from the roastiness from the stout.
Yeah.
So that might actually be the best pairing that I can think of. But I do think the mushroom pizza also goes pretty well with it. I think some of the earthiness from the mushrooms really pairs in with the fruity, earthy coffee character as well.
Yeah, it's something that you can sit down and drink and enjoy by itself. If you want to get some food definitely get that goat cheese stuffed dates. That sounds delicious.
Oh, they're awesome.
Every time I do this show, everybody says something about food, and it just makes me instantly hungry.
Yeah, it's like I wish the kitchen was open right now.
If only. No. But anything else you wanted to get out as far as the Single Origin Coffee Stout goes that I might have not hit on?
I think we mostly covered it. Just, go out to your local retailer, support them, grab a 4-pack. Let us know what you think. Come down here, enjoy a pint. We do also offer it on nitro on draft, so some of your local watering holes might have it on nitro, and that's it's super good that way. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like going nitro when I can. It's really nice. Thank you for tuning in, and Mike, thank you for your time. Tune in next week for an all new episode here at Masthead Brewing Company.